repeat what I said last week regarding to globular spirits. In this passage, you see how carefully Kardec, how strongly Kardec is in telling us, suggesting us to be completely reasonable when dealing with a spiritual manifestation of all kinds, visual and otherwise. That we really need to rule out physical causes for phenomena that happens around us and with us before you jump and say it's spirit. We had a good discussion at the end on this matter, and it's obvious. If someone is a non-medium, someone understands oneself as having this open window, so to say, to the spiritual world, and this individual is seeing things that other people does not see, or is having some perception beyond the physical, likely it is spiritual, because that individual have a good understand of its mediumistic abilities. What Kardec is pointing out here is individuals who may or may not have mediumistic abilities, but for everything that happens, everything that is sees beyond the very normal things that we see or the other people are not seeing, they attribute to be of a spiritual nature. And he brings here many, many examples of things that are purely physical, physiological, that can be explained by science. And we need to be very careful before we label those things as things of spiritual matter. For one thing, it takes us away from the truth, from the science of spiritism. It takes us away from the scientific part of the doctrine and put us back on the mystical, on the mythical part of spirituality, which spiritism tries to take us away from it. But it's also very detrimental to the spiritism itself, because all the opposition, so to say, to spiritism will point out exactly those things. Look at those spiritists. A simple physiological phenomena as condensation of matter they attribute to spirit. Look at those fools. They have some specks in their eyes and they running around saying that the spirits are following them. We need to be very careful. Are there spiritual phenomena? Of course there is a spiritual phenomena. Should we jump and conclude everything that happens to us outside of the ordinary to be of a spiritual cause? It may be, it may be not. It will be when we rule out the other possibilities. And Kardec is very strong to make that point here. So this thing of globular spirits, which basically mean round, is based talk about one thing, is what he calls the aeroform molecules. That's basically a product of pollution, so to say. When they especially when it's a high temperature and all with heat, the molecules become more active, okay, and sometimes they will bang against one another and may be actually visible to us. And some individuals have came to Kardec and say, I see spirits all the time. So they see those aeroform, those molecules that clump together in the air, especially when it's hot, and they call it spirits. And then we're going to read here now some very physiological thing that happens in our eyes,
Mm.
normal things. And that's we're going to read now before we discuss.
Okay. The watery fluid in the eye sometimes contains specks that are barely perceptible and which have lost some of their transparency. These specks are like opaque objects suspended in the fluid, whose movement they follow. They appear as tiny discs, barely 1/16th of an inch in diameter, but augmented by refraction, which appear to float in the air some distance away. We have seen people take these discs to be spirits who follow them everywhere, and in their enthusiasm, they see figures in the nuances of the iridescence. This is about as rational as seeing the figure of a man on the moon. It would only take a simple observation on their part to bring themselves back to reality. They say that these discs or medallions not only follow them, but that they also duplicate their movements. They go to the right and to the left, up and down, or stop according to their head movements. There is nothing strange about this, since the seat of the phenomenon lies in the ocular globe and must naturally obey its movements. If they were actually spirits, people will have to admit that the discs display a too highly mechanical movement for intelligent and free beings, a tiresome role, even for low order spirits, and a role even more incompatible with our ideas concerning high order spirits. Some people have even taken the black or opaque specks that sometimes appear in the eye to be evil spirits. Both the discs and the black specks have a wave-like movement that is restricted to a certain angle. And what increases the illusion is that they do not abruptly follow the movements of the line of vision. The reason is simple. The opaque specks in the watery fluid, the primary cause of the phenomenon, are, as we have stated, suspended in the liquid and tend to float downwards. When they rise, they do so with movement of the eyes from the bottom upwards. But when they reach a certain height, they move, they become fixed and they are seen to float back down and stop by themselves. They are extremely mobile because it only takes an imperceptible movement of the eye to make them change direction and quickly travel the whole width of the arc in the space where the image is produced. As long as it has not been proven that an image has its own spontaneous and intelligent movement, one can only see it as an optical and physiological phenomenon. The same happens with the stars, sometimes produced by the contraction of the eye muscles, and which appear in more or less tight bunches. These are probably due to the force phosphorescent electricity of, of the iris because they are usually confined to the circle of that part of the eye. Similar types of these illusions can only be the result of imperfect observation. Whoever has seriously studied the nature of spirits through the means offered by practical spiritism will understand how naive they are, just as we combat the foolhardy theories that attract spirit communications when such theories are based on an ignorance of the facts. We must also seek to destroy the erroneous ideas that result more from enthusiasm than mental reflection, and which therefore cause more harm than good to disbelievers who are already naturally disposed to looking for the ridiculous side of the matter.
Thanks.
Okay.
I'm sorry I had to read so long because the truth is the only thing that matters here is the very last paragraph.
Mm.
That's the only thing that is the take-home message here. So again, as I explained before, Kardec takes the care To give us a little lesson in eye anatomy, tell that no, there is this vitreous fluid in front of the eyes that, and that fluid is not just pure water. There is some things in it, and something those things clamp together and makes apparent some things in front of our eyes. Now, if it's thing is there, isn't it the fluid? It will move with our eye movement. If you move your eye to the right, this thing is gonna move to the right. If you move your eyes upwards, this thing is gonna move with you upwards. And some people are fool enough to say that they're seeing spirits. They're seeing little things in front of their eyes. Um, the important thing is here is the very last paragraph, and Kardec tells us the same way that will you fight. Oh, fight now, they will story and will present, will document the not only the existence of spirits, but the ability of interaction of spirits with incarnate. The ability of spirit to present themselves to us in many different ways, physical manifestation otherwise, we can prove it, we can demonstrate it. We will strongly oppose the fantasies. We will strongly oppose anyone who will start to create an existence of phenomena that has nothing to do with the spiritual phenomena, that has nothing to do with true vision of spirits. And we, as spiritists, we that Kawan Kardec put over here, whoever has seriously studied the nature of spirits through the means offered by practical spiritism, we will understand how naive they are. Who are these naive we're talking about? The ones who see a little speck in the eyes and think they're seeing spirits. We need to combat this naivety as much as we can. Of course, for our own sake, but also for the sake of the doctrine itself. Kardec is very careful. It's a very long reading over here that basically means nothing to us, means nothing to mediumship itself. And his point is exactly that. All this nonsense these people are saying there is purely physiological and has nothing to do with mediumship, period. Questions, comment? In principle, it seems, it's a boring reading. Why did Kardec put it over there? If, if for us right now, it's kind of irrelevant. For many, even today, it's still relevant. And at the time that the book was published, of course, was extremely relevant. And again, most of the reading here now, from now on, it's quite repetitious. I have thought about not reading and just give a quick synopsis and move on, but it's in the book. I don't want overlook Kardec in any possible way.
Okay, so 109.
109, if nobody has any questions. And if anybody's interested in eye anatomy, I'm very bad on that. Don't ask me.
Okay. 109. As we have seen, the perispirit is the principle for all manifestations. Understanding it has given us the key to numerous phenomena. It has led to a large advance in spiritist science and has enabled it to enter upon a new path by removing any relic of the miraculous from it. Thanks to the spirits themselves, we must always point out that it was they who taught us the way. We have found in the perispirit an explanation for spirit's action upon matter, the moving about in inert objects, noises, and apparitions. In the perispirit, we will find an explanation for many other phenomena yet to be examined before proceeding to a study of the communications per se. We will understand these communications much better the more completely we understand their fundamental causes. If we understand this principle, it will be easier for us to apply it to the various phenomena that may present themselves for observation.
Thanks.
Mhm.
It's interesting that I put a note over here that the perispirit is being a revelation of the spirits, not science. And it's exactly what we studied in the first part, right? Not all things that we know have been revealed by science. But having said that, um, I think the perispirit need to be studied seriously in a scientific way, so you can understand this, not only what perispirit is, but understand mediumship a whole lot better. Because as Kardec put it here, perispirit is the principle for all manifestations. So if you really want to go deeper in the understanding of mediumship, we are going to have to go deeper in the understanding of the perispirit. Keep that in mind. All manifestations.
Yeah.
The perispirit is the principle of all manifestations. If there is a mediumistic phenomenon happen, there is involvement of two perispirits, of the medium and of the spirit. Therefore, to understand mediumship in depth, we're going to have to go deep and understand of the perispirit. And again, something was revealed to us by the spirit. Science did not show the perispirit. On the contrary, science still rejects so somewhat the perispirit. Questions, comments? All right, 110.
Okay. However, far be it from us to regard the theory that we are presenting as absolute and as being the last word on the issue. It will undoubtedly be completed or corrected later on through new studies. But no matter how incomplete or imperfect it may be at present, it can always help if we understand the possibility of the phenomenon resulting from causes that have nothing supernatural about them. If it is a theory, we nevertheless cannot deny the merit of its reasonableness and probability, and that it is worth as much as all the explanations that our detractors have attempted to use in order to prove that everything involving spirit phenomena is no more than illusion, phantasmagoria, and deception.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Mhm.
So here, Kardec says clearly this. We have presented a theory of how this thing called mediumship functions. But I have just started to scratch the surface of this phenomena. The science is just a little baby starting its first steps. We need to go much farther and understand it. But this theory is reasonable. This theory it holds itself, has a good foundation, has a good basis, and not going to fall off. So we can use it to grow. We can use to build upon it. But we have to do our work over here now. Start to work on understand this better. And it's much better. Is the only one who has the basis, have the foundation to hold further studies than all the theories that reject what we are presenting. So Kardec leaves very clear to us here that you still need, it will be undoubtedly be completed or corrected later through new studies. And the humbleness is here to be corrected. Maybe these things over here they're gonna have to correct. Doesn't mean they were wrong. That was right at that time, as what Julio always teach us, right? At one point, that was all that we had to hold on. Now we have something else that can make corrections. We can make, we can, you can leave aside that way of thinking and bring one a new paradigm. At one point, we only had the first revelation on or the first testament. Christ comes in and brings us a new paradigm, in a new revelation. Then now we can follow that is superior than the previous one because we evolved to it. Eventually, what Kardec presented to us here will be completed, complete, will be more complete, will be incremented, but the foundation is there, and the foundation is truthful, and it is strong. Okay, the hallucination theory.
Yeah.
Very long. I don't know how much is worth it to go through the whole thing. Let's read 111 and I comment.
Okay. Those who do not accept the existence of the incorporeal and invisible world think that they can explain everything away with the word hallucination. The definition of this word is well known. It means the error, the illusion of those who believe they experience certain perceptions when in fact they do not. It comes from the Latin hallucinare, to err, from ad lucium, but we know that scholars still have not explained its physiological, okay, cause. Since it seems that optics and physiology no longer hold any secrets from these learned individuals, why haven't they been able to explain the nature and the origin of images that are shown to the spirit under certain circumstances? They want to explain everything using the laws of matter and should therefore be able to provide a theory of hallucination based upon such laws, good or bad. It would at least be an explanation.
Okay. So what is a hallucination? Hallucination is the real observation of something that does not exist. Kind of trick, right? It's the real observation of something that does not exist. And it can be perceived in all fields of sensation. It can be tactile, it can be um, visual. What happened, Yuri? It can be through the sense of smell. You have olfactory hallucinations is actually one of the way to make some diagnosis. But the important thing is the word is real. That the person who is let's talk about visual because the topic of discussion is visual manifestations, right? But we know it could be any sensorial means. So somebody tells you, could you please get me the guitar on top of that pink sofa? And you look around, there is no pink sofa, there is no guitar. And you tell the person, I don't see any pink sofa. And the person tells, don't you see the pink sofa right there, the corner over there? Get me the guitar that is on it. That is how real the hallucination is for the person who is seeing something that is not really there. But that person is really seeing that thing. The interesting thing is that our science in psychiatry has been able to tell when someone is hallucinating, okay? But we don't know, we still cannot explain hallucination. So if I see black cats jumping on the window and there are no black cats, maybe there is no, perhaps not even a window, I am seeing those things. And scientists say I'm always hallucinating. The hallucination may be due to a brain tumor, maybe to chemicals, can be through opiates, can be for LSD, could be for extremely high fever. There's many ways that we can hallucinate. But science cannot yet explain how it happens. How is Elmo's symptom something that is not there? And Elmo's vision is real. We don't know how to explain that yet. And the problem is, since hallucination is such a broad thing, it's something that we cannot understand so well yet, you can use that word to label all visual manifestations, mediumistic visual manifestations. When someone says, I see the spirit of grandmother or something else, well, this guy is hallucinating. It becomes a easy cover up for those who will combat the possibility of interaction between spirits and incarnate. Every time that it happens, they'll say, "Ah, it's hallucinating." Very easy. Very is we don't know. We can explain. We have no our science can, but we know that the person has hallucinated. He cannot be seeing his grandma because his grandma is dead 30 years already, right? So it's a cover up word for everything. So Kardec goes through this many pages over here to demystify the theory of hallucination, which I think is quite extensive for readings. But again, I don't want to overestimate and bypass Kardec in any way. So we're going to read as quickly as we can.
Okay. Okay. 112, right? Okay. The course of dreams have never been explained by science. It attributes them to an effect of the imagination, but it does not tell us what this imagination is or how it produces the images that are so clear and distinct, which at times appear to us. Thus, they explain one unknown thing with another that is even less known. Everything remains the same. They say that dreams should be regarded as a memory of our awakening state concerns. However, even if we were to accept this solution, it would actually resolve nothing. We will still need to know what this magic mirror is that retains the impression of such concerns. Above all, how can they explain the visions of real things that we have never seen before or thought of in the awakening state? Only Spiritism can provide us with the key to those strange phenomena that pass unnoticed simply because they are so common, as are all the wonders of nature that we so undervalue. Scholars have now wanted to deal with hallucinations, but whether they are real or not, they are a phenomenon that physiology should be able to explain. Otherwise, it would run the risk of exposing its incompetency. If someday a scholar were to decide to give not only a definition but a physiological explanation of this phenomenon, we would still have to see if that theory resolved all the cases, if it omitted the very common occurrences of apparitions of persons at the moment of death, and if it clarified the coincidence of the person's apparition with his or her death. If these were isolated events, they might be attributed to chance, but since they are quite frequent, chance cannot produce such recurrences. If the one who saw the apparition had had the notion that the person was about to die, then fine. However, in most cases, the apparition involves someone who was not thought about in the least. Consequently, imagination has nothing to do with it. Still less can the knowledge about the completely unknown circumstances of death be explained away by imagination. The adherents of the hallucination theory will state that the soul, if they in fact believe in the soul, undergoes moments of overexcitation in which the faculties are heightened. We would agree, but when what the soul sees is real, it cannot be treated as an illusion. If in this heightened excitation the soul sees something that is not present, it is because it goes to where that something actually is. And if our soul can go to a person who is not present, then why couldn't the soul of the absent person come to us just as easily? Let those who adhere to the hallucination theory take such facts into consideration and not forget that a theory that is contradicted by the facts is necessarily erroneous or incomplete. While we await their explanation, we shall try to provide some ideas of our own on the matter.
Thanks.
You're
Another thing that our science cannot yet explain to us, even today, forget about the time of Kardec, is dreams. There's a lot of studies on dreams. Dreams, no, it really brings curiosity to the scientific community. They seek to understand dreams. And there are many theories, some of them very well accepted, right? That dreams is a necessary kind of the brain doing its own maintenance, so to say. As we go to sleep, the body is at rest, and we don't need our cognitive function because the body is at rest. The brain goes through a maintenance service and review a lot of things and get rid of some information that's not necessary, retain some that are necessary, and so forth and so on. And in this process, we dream. Okay, that's good. But how do we explain the dreams that it's not part of your daily routine of things that you do? Think it's completely alien to your normal routine, to your normal life. Why all of a sudden you dream that you are with a cousin that you haven't even thought of it in ages, and you are in a different place that you've never been before? Where is that coming from? The brain does not need it to do anything with those thoughts, so that does not explain. So the truth is, we our science does not completely understand dream, nor it will until it starts to accept our spiritual nature, and again, more important, start to comprehend the perispirit as a part of the human being, the complete human being, that we are spirit, perispirit, physical body, and stop limiting us to be only a physical body. There will be no explanation. Again, so let's say that I am seeing the pink couch with a guitar on it, and to me it's real. Science cannot explain where does Elmo come out with this pink sofa and with a guitar on it. Could it be that Elmo is being able to going somewhere with perispirit where there is a a a pink sofa with a guitar on top of it, but in this state of confusion of altered mental status, he mix the two planes. He doesn't know exactly. You're not able to differentiate the two planes. So I speak with the person who is here with me right now, but my vision is a spiritual vision, and that transcends the physical, and I'm seeing uh, things that are not there. Is that Is there an explanation? Well, it's a much better explanation than anything that science can offer. At least we provide a reasonable explanation. Is it complete? Kardec says already, no, it's not complete. We have to develop the science a whole lot to complete this theory, but the foundation is there. Perhaps what we call hallucination is we in an altered state of consciousness being able to transit, to go into the spiritual dimension and see things. And because we are in an altered state, we will be at the same place at the same time, so to say. So I can talk to the person over here, go get me the guitar that does not exist. I'm here, but I'm seeing things that are not here. At least we have an explanation. Is it complete? No. Is it satisfactory? Not yet. But it is an explanation, and we can grow on it. It's much better than what science has to offer to us right now. The cases of apparitions of a person who has just discarnate or is about to discarnate, being reported throughout the world. Many people, not really mediums, and we had said again, not all fully mediums will have those kind of visions from time to time, or the sensation of seeing that person from time to time. If it was one isolated event, I can say it's an imagination of that person. But with so much happening so frequently, we cannot, because there is truth in repetition. One of the things that one of the ways that science uses to transform a theory into a law is if it repeats itself consistently under the same circumstances, right? So if there is truth in repetition, and these apparitions, especially of individuals who are near death or have recently died, is extremely common, which proves that it's not an imagination. Okay.
Yeah, this could be a discussion for days and days, right?
It could. And it's important that we read it, but it's not going to contribute much to our stories of mediumship.
Yeah, but it's when you talk about hallucinations and mediumship, they are relevant to the discussion of mediumship
Yes.
and hallucination, because a lot of people that think they are hallucinating are actually mediums, and there are those that start seeing spirits everywhere when they are really, in that case, hallucinating. But the majorities of the so-called hallucinations are actually people that have an open mediumship, right? Mediumship, that the ability to see spirits, and but they don't know it. They don't understand anything about it, right? And the doctors that take care of them also end up putting them in hospices or mental asylums because of this, right? Because they end up
start giving them psychotropic drugs, and then they start having real hallucinations because that
exactly.
taking medications they don't need.
Exactly. So
no, it is relevant, and
yeah.
it is relevant that we differentiate hallucinations from true mediumship, or even accept the possibility that visual hallucinations may be an ability of the perispirit to visualize things that the physical eyes cannot. But of course, it's a theory.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Elmo.
Yeah? Do I hear a voice?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah,
Hi.
you know, when João said it's a conversation that can last days, and I said I'm holding myself here because, you know, if any casual conversation or even in doctors' evaluations, if you mention the word spirit or spiritism, you know, you can cause like tremendous agitation. You know, not so long ago, last year, right before the lockdown, we were talking with friends, and I mentioned the word spirit. The man like almost jumped off his table. We almost fought. So the whole family was like feeling the commotion of the subject, and I kept it really simple. You know, just like very to the basics, but just the fact that I said I believe in we are not just a physical body. He got really agitated, and just the fact that say the argument is very simple. Like he starts the item, right? You're just blaming to hallucination, and that's it. The conversation is done, right? It's sort
Yeah,
of
it's a,
like you need you need to read the whole thing, like books and books, to get to some, you know, decent conversation, or the person shuts down way before that. So
no, it is. And then, okay, so let's assume it is hallucination. Where is it coming from? Where are those images coming from? Where is, why is my brain creating something that it's not part of my routine? If if it is imagination, it also has to have a genesis. It has to be coming from somewhere. But the thing with hallucination, that's why I thought very important to give the definition. It's it's the real observation of something that is not there. It's real. I'm seeing that thing that no one else is seeing. So you cannot just go easy with it's imagination. And it is very difficult. And I think that's the problem that we have not advanced in the study of spirit that you need so far, because once you say the word spirit, you are labeled as as an unintelligent person almost, a mystical or mythical person, and you are being alienated from the rest of the group. So we have to be careful um, to put our understandings out there, which I'm glad to say is our understandings, not our beliefs. We don't believe in spirits. We know of spirits. We don't believe in mediumship. You have to be certain of this. We know of it. We study it. It's not that I believe in it. You may believe in Santa Claus,
well, that's what I told
but
him.
we know of it.
And that created like the situation that, you know, I had to say, I'm your friend, like please, you know, it's okay, it's okay. Because when I said there are books about it, there are places where you can talk about it, there are people having those experiences, and he was like very nervous about that. So, and he's not alone. So I'm
No,
like,
absolutely not. And the worst of it, and this among this group, many of them are ostensive mediums. They are suffering and they have one reincarnation suffering because they cannot be humbled enough to accept that there is a different reality from what they grew up with. It's very difficult.
I have a question.
Sure.
Or I guess I'm confused. Uh, when you say spirit, can you say that that's hallucination?
No.
Because nobody's seeing it, but you see it. And back in the 60s, well, you were not around, Elmo, but back in the 60s, that was part of the hip culture to be taking LSD. You even remember this professor for NYU, I forgot his Leary, was his name, that recommended that in terms
Yeah.
of taking LSD to hallucinate and to
Mhm.
explore. So all this got me into. I went back into the 60s, and now it's like a little bit kind of how much of all this phenomenon is spiritism, or is just a disturbance in the brain because of drugs, or I don't know. Am I making? Do you understand how confused I
It
am?
can be both, right, Elmo? It can be both, right?
But you understand my confusion. That's my point,
Yes,
because
yeah.
what I'm relating to you is that I'm confused, basically.
Yeah, no, being very specific, say if the question was if I'm seeing spirit as hallucination, I said, no, you are seeing spirit. You are seeing spirit. You have the ability to see spirit. If you are seeing spirit, you are seeing spirit. Now, you may see in spirit in a state of trance, an altered state of consciousness, from many different causes. One of them may be LSD. Now, if I am high on LSD, I cannot be considered a medium. I cannot consider that what I'm seeing is indeed things of the spiritual world. Then it might be just things of my brain. But could it be both? Yes, it could be both.
Oh, okay, I
But I
get you. Very
cannot
good. It
say,
could be.
I
It
cannot
could
say
actually
that,
be, but exactly.
right. I cannot say when I'm state, altered state
Yeah.
of consciousness secondary to drug, that it's mediumship. No, it's secondary to drug. Is a chemical altered state of consciousness. In mediumship, you have an altered state, an altered state of consciousness, which is a mediumistic trance. Two different things.
Yes. It's clear now.
A
I'm sorry.
mediumistic trance,
You could
if
have it
you are
and be
seeing
a
medium,
medium.
you
Yeah,
see
look at it.
spirits, not a hallucination. It is mediumship, period. Now, could you see spirits through other means? Yes, you could. But then I could say there could be something else as well. But if you are in the mediumistic trance, then you are seeing spirits, period. Does it make sense?
Yes,
Yeah, because
definitely.
it
Now,
may
yeah,
be confusing.
it's kind of
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing
confusion.
because
Yeah, that in terms of
when
the
you
skin,
bring,
exactly.
yeah, what the important concept here is altered state of conscience.
Yes.
How this altered state of conscience happens. Altered state of conscience is beyond the regular state of conscience. So
Right.
medium trance, a mediumistic trance is an altered state of consciousness. A trip with LSD is an altered state of conscience. A delirium because of high fever is an altered state of consciousness.
Exactly.
But each one is different. In all of them, you can accept mediumship because you cannot hallucinate with mediumship. But with the others, you can hallucinate, or you can see spirits, or you can do both.
That's right. That's good synapse of the whole thing right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a capsule, very good. In a capsule, yes.
Yes, Carol.
Yeah, I had the experience of driving in a blinding snowstorm, which was ridiculously silly to do, but definitely I was in a normal state of consciousness prior to driving into the snowstorm. While I was in the snowstorm, I should have gotten off the road, but I kept looking and looking, and it was very hypnotizing. And I must say, I did experience hallucinations. It I think it was just that hypnotic flow of the snow just continuously coming in. And I didn't have the sense, even at that point, to get off the road. I just kept, it was just very, very hypnotic. But there were hallucinations, definitely. Anyway,
Yeah,
that's my
yeah,
story.
yeah. There are
My
many
story.
ways that you could get into that altered mental consciousness. One does is kinetic, right? Of motions comes through you, or you doing the motion of core itself, like the rotating around your own axis. Like there's this people in the East does that, and they go into trance by just rotating on them, or you can get in a state of hallucinations to some rhythms, noise, to some motions coming to you. There's many ways that get in an altered state of consciousness, and maybe you are sensitive to what, as you call, hypnotic motion of the snow on the windshield.
But then there's almost like an impairment about practicality, like it was so hypnotic and almost so enticing that the mind generally had no discernment. Basically, it just kept kind of getting invested in it. It was quite odd. It was interesting, though, needless to say. It was fascinating. Made it through.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah. Okay, can you read a little more?
Yes.
Okay. 113.
Mm.
Okay. The facts prove that they are true apparitions, which the spiritist theory explains perfectly, and which could only be denied by those who accept nothing beyond the physical organism. However, apart from these real visions,
Sorry.
okay, where am I now?
Last line.
Okay, however, apart from these real visions, aren't there also hallucinations in the normal sense of the word? We cannot doubt it, but what is their cause? The spirits themselves have sent us in the right direction, and they have given us a complete explanation in their responses in the following questions. Are sightings of apparitions always real, or are they sometimes an effect of hallucination? When we see the devil, for example, or other fantastic things while dreaming or in some other way, in which we know could not possibly exist, isn't it due to nothing more than imagination? Yes, sometimes, as when someone is affected by reading certain materials or by stories of witchcraft, and then recalls them and believes he or she is seeing what does not, in fact, exist. However, we have also already stated that a spirit, by means of its semi material envelope, can take on all sorts of shapes in order to manifest itself. Thus, a mocking spirit can appear with horns and claws if it wants to, in order to mock the gullible, just as a good spirit may show itself with wings and a shining appearance. May we regard as apparitions the faces and other images that often appear when we are half asleep or when we simply have our eyes closed. When the senses go numb, the spirit frees itself and can see close or far away what it would not be able to see with the eyes. These images are almost always visions, but they can also be the effect of impressions that the sight of certain objects have left on the brain, which retains their outline just as it retains sounds. The free spirit then sees in its own mind the impressions fixed therein like a photographic plate. The variety and mixture of such impressions form bizarre and fleeting combinations that almost always immediately disappear despite every effort made to retain them. These fantastic apparitions should be attributed to a similar cause, and they have nothing real about them. They are often produced during illness.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
Because time is up now.
okay.
Getting close. So what we had read so far here basically is exactly what we just said over here. A vision could be many things. It could be indeed a mediumistic phenomena. Again, we are all mediums. Okay, even the non-ostensive mediums will experience a visual manifestation from time to time, at least once in our lifetimes, if you live long enough. But could it not be hallucinations? Yes, it could be hallucinations. Can you explain hallucinations? No, we cannot explain hallucinations too well yet. Okay. Um, in order for us to have imagination, we have to have something in our mind, something in our memory that is the ignition, the point to start that imagination. Okay, so that's like I said, if you're impressed with something that you read, and perhaps you watch terror movies, you know, which that's why I don't do it, and you go to bed impressed with the horrible scenes that you saw in that horror movie, and you keep thinking of it, you go to sleep and you start seeing those images again happening to you. Definitely, we can tell that's something of the brain, right? Is the brain work those things out that you are so impressed to it, right? You may you may reveal the same image that terrorize your mind in that movie, and when you go to sleep, you keep seeing that horrible image again. That is definitely something of the brain, something that you are recreating, but it has a point of ignition, has a genesis, it has something that it comes from, right? It's something that you read, something that you saw, um, something in the news that impressed you, it stuck to your mind, and you use that in your creative imaginations. Okay. Use the example of the devil. If we dreams and the devil is trying to catch us, well, we wake up, say, I know the devil does not exist, but in my dream, I saw the devil running after me. Then you know that it could be what? Product of my imagination. Could be what? Another possibility Kardec puts here is mocking spirits, dressing themselves, dressing the perispirit, right? With the images that frightens us. If the image that frightens us, the image of the devil, that's how they will dress their own perispirit and frighten us. So all the possibilities are valid, but we cannot discard mediumship just because the other possibilities are valid. We have to include the mediumship in the possibilities, and that's the Kardec's point. Yes, there is hallucinations, there is imagination, but there is also mediumship. Okay, question, comments? Okay. We'll continue next week then. Who's going to make the final prayer for us, please?
Um,
Go ahead,
Thank you. Thank you, Elmo.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Infinite Creator, the good spirits, those who are with us this evening for our study of the Medium's book, we are grateful to have the endeavor to do so and the forum in which we can. We are grateful for the blessings we have received, the illumination, the enlightenment, and furthering our studies in the mediumship. We are grateful to have the topics discussed, those of the globular spirits, the hallucinations, apparitions. We have to be careful, however, we have to use our discernment to find truly whether it is part of mediumship or it is also perhaps just a physical phenomenon. We need to go greater in our study, greater in our depth, never to merely assume something is true. Our furthering of the studies will help us to impart this wisdom. We are grateful for what we have received, and may we continue throughout the week with our studies, with our mindfulness, and with our lessons, helping others as they are able to receive through our discernment. We are grateful, and may we continue to receive the blessings of love, light, and peace, and the Christ consciousness within us, always blessing us and keeping us on the higher road in life. May we share what we have with others who are able to receive the blessings. We close now and humbly ask for safety and protection as we go forth to family, friends, loved ones, and coworkers. May we be blessed. May we be safe. May our families also be healed and blessed. May we close now and remember that we are beacons of light, that we can be of greater service in the world, in our community, locally and globally. May we close now and close with a blessing of inner peace. So be it.
So be it.
Thank you.